Get that bitch a cannon.
Girls und Panzer. If someone tells you they like this show because of the riveting story or fleshed out character development, they're probably lying. It's more than likely the morally questionable portrayal of high school girls. I can't speak on behalf of everybody who's seen it, but I can at least speak for myself. Personally, I jack off to the tanks. Porsche Tiger has a dumpy on it, let me tell you. I'm gonna keep it a buck. This show is a guilty pleasure of mine. You can probably tell by the sound of my sniveling autistic voice, but I think that tanks are really cool. I just think they're neat. What do you want from me? Though my memory has faded somewhat, I still have a great depth of knowledge about all sorts of different tanks from different countries and time periods. And truth be told, this show is one of the reasons why I got so into studying military history as a whole. I even went to college for it. Sure, I dropped out after the first semester, but it's the thought that counts, right? Something I still study for fun and very much enjoy. Now, today, I'm going to be covering the 12-episode original series somewhat in depth, kind of do a bit of a play-by-play and give my thoughts as I go along. But for those of you who might watch this video and then the show, there's a wide breadth of Girls and Panzer content for you to enjoy and me to scalp for content. I'll elaborate more on that later. I'd also like to issue a spoiler warning, but let's be real, the show came out like 14 years ago and there's barely anything to spoil. If you want a spoiler-free review, then all I can really say is I recommend the show. There's nothing really quite like it, and if you're just a little bit on the spectrum, you'll probably love it just like me. The action alone is to die for, which is the strongest aspect compared to everything else. Well anyway, I'm not sure how much longer this headset mic is gonna survive, and the script is long enough already, so let's just jump into the synopsis.
You got to get me to Los Angeles.
Well, can't you just take a plane?
How, punk? We don't use money in hell, nigga.
Well, damn, nigga.
Girls and Panzer is a bit of a strange case in the world of production. Created by Tsutomu Mizushima, written by Reiko Yoshida, and produced by Kiyoshi Sugiyama, pardon my Japanese, the anime technically entered production first, but while it was being worked on, the manga was released volume by volume until the anime was done and a little past it. The anime first aired in October of 2012 through December of the same year, while the manga, meanwhile, began in June of 2012 and continued all the way through March of 2014. Which, yes, I know is confusing, but like I said, the anime was in production while the manga was being released initially. So the anime technically came first.
Huh?
The manga wasn't even done by the time the series stopped airing. I've not read the manga fully, but from what I gather, it's one-to-one with the anime with very little, if any, difference. The show has had several OVAs and spin-offs, both in the form of manga and anime, with the more popular spin-offs being the movies Der Film and Das Finale, though others exist in the form of the Moto Love Love 4-part anime and Real Anzio Battle OVA. For manga, there's the Ribbon Warrior, Little Army, Way of the Meal, Avanti Anzio, Fierce Fight Maginot Battle, Phase Erica, Tankery Recommendations, and Iron Winged Witch mangas, most of which I've never even heard of until making this video, so hey, there's more potential content in the future. A couple of Girls and Panzer games were also made, including the Dream Tank Match game, a game that kind of plays like World of Tanks, who the series has had many crossovers with, a gacha game titled Great Tankery Operation, another battle game called Senshido Kiwamamesu for the PS Vita of all things, and a mobile game called Atsumare Minna no Senshido, which unfortunately shut down in 2019. Again, more potential content in the future because I haven't played any of these either. The anime, which is the main focus of this video, I remind you, centers around a girl named Miho Nishizumi, a girl failure reject who is banished from her family because she dared to have such weaknesses like morals and the ability to smile. She winds up at a new school after disappointing her mom and gets back into the sport that she was in before getting kicked out of her old school. What's that sport, you might ask? See, in the world of Girls and Panzer, there's this high school sport called tankery. It's tank-on-tank combat, but safe. Somehow.
The inside of the tanks are coated with carbon, so it'll be fine. Don't worry.
Not that. Your hat out of the tank. What if you get hit?
people rarely get hit during these matches.
Oh, God! God damn it!
Yeah, don't think about it too much. There's no way in hell that any of this is safe. There's several points in the anime where those tank shells should be going in one side and out the other, liquefying everyone inside. Thankfully, this show doesn't have any gore, but if you're into that, there's always the Yuki Yukite Dojin. Don't. Just don't. The story follows our main protagonist and a bunch of little gaggle fucks she meets along the way to help fill out the roster of her school's team, battling comedic ethnic stereotypes with their own tankery teams as they work their way through a tournament in hopes to save their school from going bankrupt. Fairly straightforward all in all, the story only exists to give reason as why girls are shooting each other with tanks. Along the way, we also get to spend time with said ethnic stereotypes as well as Miho's friends, who all have their own little quirks and personality disorders. We also get to find out why exactly Miho was disowned by her mother, and the series concludes with Miho squaring up with her older sister in the aforementioned tournament, becoming the hero of her little podunk school. God, my allergies are just fucking me raw. Someone, send help. The series begins with the Panzer IV looking out into a gravel pit with some Matildas and a Churchill tank. I'll talk more about the tanks as they come up in passing, so just hold on to your britches, we'll get there eventually. We get to meet Miho proper and one of her friends named Yukari. Be nice to her, she's autistic, as they get their tank on the move. From then, we get to see a Type 89 Japanese tank, a 38T German/Czechoslovak tank, an American M3 Lee, and a German Sturmgeschütz 3, shortened to Stug if you're not autistic. You can effectively call these tanks our main cast of characters alongside the girls that pilot them, as we see them the most out of all of Urai's tanks and team members, Urai being the school that Miho and her friends are a part of. A little bit on the tanks since they're on screen, the Panzer IV is a German medium tank with the specific version fielded by Urai being the D variant, sporting the short 75mm gun. About 8,000 of these were made between all variants during the war and functionally serve as the workhorse of the German army for its duration. The Panzer IV effectively served on every front that the German army was a part of during the war, alongside its little brother, the Panzer III, which has its cameo in the show in the Sturmgeschütz configuration that Urai fields. The Sturmgeschütz is an assault gun variation of the Panzer III, trading a rotating turret for a fixed casemate and a self-propelled gun. The early models of the Sturmgeschütz 3 used the same short-barreled 75mm that Urai's Panzer IV has, but as the war progressed, they were later upgraded with the long 75, which was then also later put on the Panzer IV. These, as well as other Panzer III variants, were the most widely produced vehicles in the German army and was also another beloved workhorse during the war and served from its beginning to its conclusion. The 38T, as I'm going to call it for the duration of this video, is technically a Czech tank, but was primarily produced and used by the German army during the early years of the war, seeing use in France, North Africa, and the Eastern Front. Erwin Rommel famously had a lot of these in his 7th Ghost Division during the North Africa campaign. They were very effective vehicles at the onset of the war before tank doctrine adjusted so heavily throughout its duration, but as the war progressed to its midpoint, it very quickly became obsolescent. As the war progressed and the Germans had their fill of the things, they ended up just giving them to their allies instead of fielding them properly. The 38T is armed with a 37mm gun, which at its time during the debut of the war functioned very well and was beloved by the tank crews that used it. However, again, as the war progressed, this thing very quickly became kicked aside for bigger and better vehicles, especially the ones that the Germans actually made in Germany. The M3 Lee is the only American vehicle in Urai's roster, featuring a 37mm gun in the turret and a forward-facing 75mm gun in the hull, technically making this a multi-turreted tank, though that definition is fairly loose. And yes, despite how goofy this thing looks, it was real, and it's a personal favorite of mine. It was made initially as a stopgap vehicle while the M4 was still on the drawing board and saw most of its service life in British hands during the North Africa campaign. From what I've gathered, the British did not like this thing at all, and made their own list of modifications to the vehicle, converting it from the M3 Lee into the M3 Grant. The Grant most notably having a bulge in the back of the turret with a radio inside that the commander could use, which eliminated the need for a radio operator, dropping the village-sized crew of 7 men down to 6. Yes, the vehicle on your screen right now was supposed to fit 7 fully grown American men inside of it. Something else you may notice is that some of the tanks themselves are crewed with insufficient numbers, which is something you may not even pick up on if you don't know that much about tanks. I'll try to bring it up whenever I can force myself to remember to, but just know this is something that does happen during the show. Only people that read way too many books would even complain about it, so if that's not you, then don't even worry about it. Lastly, there's the Type 89 Ego, a Japanese tank that was actually the first tank to use a diesel engine in a mass production vehicle. It sports a 47mm gun that was notably terrible at tank-on-tank combat and was primarily used as an infantry support vehicle. They were used just about everywhere the Japanese went and saw a lot of its success in the Chinese countryside, where it saw very little action against other tanks. In the Pacific, though, these things were eaten alive, even by the smaller American tanks, which were made far better by comparison. We see the tanks take off in formation and get to see some of the girls that pilot them as Miho discusses Operation Sneaky Sneak with the team. It's also here that we get to meet our main quintet for the show, Miho's crew and new friends from her new high school. There is Hana Izuzu, the tank's gunner, Yukari Akiyama, the loader, Sayori Takebi, the radio operator, and Mako Reize, the driver. The characters and girls in Panzer are fairly one-note and only really exist to work the tanks that they drive, who are the real stars of the show. Except for Yukari, she's a fan favorite because she's on the spectrum. The Panzer IV initiates combat by firing onto the Matildas and Churchill while they're driving in formation, drawing their attention away from the hills where we are hit with a flashback sequence. Miho's getting ready for school at her new home, which is Urai Academy, I've said that already, and an entire town built on an aircraft carrier. I know this sounds like I'm hip-firing information at you, but this is just how the show paces itself. It plays itself pretty fast and loose, but hey, at least it's better than the pacing in One Piece, Jesus Christ. Things actually happen in the show on a timely manner, but sometimes it feels like you're getting overwhelmed with information because so much is happening all at once, and it's just jump cutting everywhere every 30 seconds. We, the audience, get to be harassed with Miho doing some cute moe anime girl shit that takes up the runtime, when we're properly introduced to Hana and Sayori, who want to be friends with the main character, because they know the golden rule of anime, and that's the main character gets all the bitches.
You get no bitches!
Their playful introduction quickly gets broken up by some federal informants who tell her that they have a job for her to do. Or rather, they're picking her electives for her. This is the student council, by the way, and we find out what they mean when they call an assembly. Good thing that Miho came to this school specifically to get away from all that tankery nonsense for a reason we haven't been told yet. Just hearing about it in passing while talking to the spooks damn near gave her the 1,000-yard stare. Surely it's nothing to worry about, and we can all get along with our...
For anyone who wants to join the team, we have a little intro video.
God damn it. After listening to the infomercial and the assembly tell them about how picking up tankery will make them right proper women that all the men will fall for, Sayori and Hana talk about signing up, and Miho spills the beans about not wanting to. The other two follow in solidarity because they're all just right proper chums, even though they met literally half an hour ago. Later on, the feds then drill Miho over not wanting to be part of the military-industrial complex, and with enough pressure, Miho folds like some kind of amateur and agrees to sell her soul to Lockheed Martin. Episode 1 ends with a couple shots of all the other girls who signed up for the tankery team and Miho fawning over the Panzer IV in a miserable state of disrepair. The camera pans out for us to get a nice proper view of Urai's aircraft carrier, and then the credits roll.
Fetish and get you a pizza, okay?
Does he have a major fetish?
No, his major fetish is a minor fetish.
So what's the fetish?
I told you, a minor fetish.
I know it's a minor fetish. What's the fetish for?
Minors.
Episode 2 starts with all the girls looking for more tanks to fill out their roster, with Miho, Sayori, and Hana adopting Yukari officially along the way. They find the 38T in the woods, and Yukari info dumps about it, much to everyone's annoyance. The volleyball team rappels down a cliff face into a cave, finding the Type 89. The Wereboos snorkel with reeds in a pond, finding the Stug at the bottom, and the freshman team find the M3 Lee in some random sheet metal garage. Straws are drawn, and teams are assigned, with each group sticking with the tank that they found. The Glowies repossess the 38T, leaving Miho's squad with the Panzer IV. We get an obligatory fan service scene on behalf of the Japanese, and the girls wait for their instructor to arrive the next day to teach them how to operate their vehicles. After school, Miho's squad go to a tank store, because that's a thing apparently, with their newly adopted cotton ball. In the store, Miho's sister Maho comes on the TV and gives Miho psychic damage through the screen by telling the reporter that surrender is for pussies.
And let this be yet another reminder that no matter how much money you got, you still just a nigga.
They then go to Miho's house, and Sayori comments on how useless they all are with zero self-awareness. Like none at all. She doesn't even realize. The next day, on her way to school, Miho runs into God's sleepiest soldier fighting his strongest nap times, Mako Reize, who was in a couple background shots before, but now we meet her properly. We also meet this bitch with a fuck-ass bob that's playing bootlicker for the school council. She comes back later, don't worry. We get to finally meet the instructor the next day, a woman by the name of Amy Chono. who airdrops into the school parking lot in a Type 10 Japanese main battle tank, all the while trashing some poor schmuck's riot on the dismount. We find out that Ami is a member of the JDF, which is short for Japanese Defense Force, and is more than eager to train up more meat for the grinder, initiating a practice round free-for-all with all the Ori girls and their tanks. Everyone figures out how to operate their vehicles while getting to their starting positions, and the match begins with the Stug and Type 89 ganging up on the Panzer IV. And Episode 2 closes out with said Panzer IV about to turn some poor sleepy little guy into red paint.
It ain't my fault he ran right in front of my truck.
Episode 3 picks off where we left off, with Mako jumping onto a moving tank, I mind you, and just climbing inside. The girls, now with an extra passenger, come up to a bridge, and Miho hops out of the tank to try and guide them across. As they try to get past the bridge, it's then when the Stug dumps a thick, steamy, armor-piercing, high-explosive load into the Panzer IV's juicy behind, knocking Hannah smooth out. Remember when I said that there's some scenes where a shell would go clear through one end and not the other? Well, this is one of them. Also, Mako hops into the driver's seat and is apparently a natural at driving, despite being a woman and suffering from narcolepsy. Mako helps steer the battle back into Miho Squad's favor, forcing the Stug and Type 89 to overshoot and miss. The Panzer IV then knocks out the Stug and the Type 89 with frontal shots. Though it's questionable whether or not the Panzer IV would have penetrated the Stug in a head-on conflict, the Type 89 absolutely would have been torn to shreds if the show was even slightly realistic. The Panzer IV then knocks out the 38-2, who decided to get in on some of this action. All the while, the freshman team piloting the M3 Lee shit themselves and try to get out of there. They get stuck in the mud and end up throwing a track and blowing out the engine, which leaves the Panzer IV and Miho Squad victorious. Maho was right, you guys are pussies.
You still just a nigger.
To pad out the runtime, we get some more fan service and a sauna. I would like to remind you again that this show is Japanese and all of this is normal apparently. Miho Squad decide to reconfigure their team's positions, and Mako thinks this whole tankery shit is for lesbians and people with proper sleep schedules. Sayori ends up convincing her to join the team though because of school credits or something. I guess joining this world's version of the JROTC actually does something. We then cut over to the girls buying things to make the Panzer IV all cutesy and comfortable on the inside, and we get shown Urai's tank's new paint schemes. Yukari was right, a lot of these look fucking terrible. Except this one, I guess. The Glowies, in the interim, set up a skirmish match with St. Gloriana's Girls High School, the opposing team from Episode 1 and the British analog for the show. They're prim, proper, solely operate British tanks, and are all named after different kinds of tea. Darjeeling, the leader, agrees to the match, and we get a cool fucking training montage. When all is said and done, Mako has a crisis of faith after being told that she needs to get up at 6 in the morning to meet with the rest of the team. Momo, one of the student council members you've probably seen before, gives us some exposition on St. Gloriana's school, stating in great detail how good they are at penetrating with their strong, thick, armored vehicles. The head of the student council, whose name I can't be arsed to remember right now, nominates Miho to be the supreme commander of Urai's tank force, and threatens her with public humiliation and cock and ball torture if she loses, which Miho accepts, obviously. The next morning, the girls go and grab Mako, waking her up by dumping a blank round in the alleyway outside of her house. Before the match on land begins, we get to see St. Gloriana's aircraft carrier dock next to Urai's, and absolutely frame mogs them in size. Frame mogs. I can't believe I actually wrote that in my script. I'm a fucking hack. We're finally introduced to the St. Gloriana's team proper, and their tanks. 4 Matildas and a Churchill, both British tanks famed for their heavy armor. The Matilda earned the moniker the Queen of the Desert during its stint in North Africa, making Rommel shit a brick trying to figure out how to kill the damn things. They're armed with a 2-pounder gun, which was infamous for being pretty bad, and a blistering top speed of 9 miles an hour off-road. A brisk walking pace, mind you. Around 3,000 of them were built, and it served from the beginning of the war to about its midpoint before being replaced by the Churchill. The Churchill followed in roughly the same footprint, with Gloriana's being equipped with a 75mm gun, one of the larger ones fitted onto the Churchill in its long, historied service life. But the gun on this one was also pretty notably terrible, which is a running theme for British tanks apparently. Everything but the 17-pounder was just not up to snuff. The Churchill was notable for a couple of different things, with one of them being an absolute beast at tackling hills and inclines, as well as having more armor than the Tiger I before the Tiger I even came out, with many examples coming in at around 1 foot thick at the front. If you've played War Thunder, you're probably pretty familiar with what the British would have experienced during the war. You gotta be pretty damn lucky to kill anything with your gun, but thankfully everybody else has to get equally as damn lucky just to kill you. And yeah, I know War Thunder isn't an accurate benchmark for how these things actually operated in the field, but I can't really say it's inaccurate from everything that I've read. These things were both the best and the worst thing you possibly could have been given in the war. Episode 3 closes out with Darjeeling roasting Ori on their choice of camouflage, and the match first shown in Episode 1 beginning proper.
You want to explain to me what you're doing here?
I came looking for booty.
You came looking for sex with an underage boy?
Episode 4 starts with the Ori team moving in formation while Miho explains the plan, picking up exactly where we left off in Episode 1 almost shot for shot. While Miho is getting the Fury 2017 featuring John Bernthal experience, the rest of the team is fucking off waiting for St. Glorianus to fall into the trap they set. They begin opening fire as soon as Miho's tank rears the corner, with St. Glorianus trailing them. Darjeeling roasts Uri for their raging incompetence and willingly takes the bait, putting the fear of God into the freshman team and forcing them to surrender in panic. The 38T throws a track amidst all the chaos of Glorianus assaulting their position, and the 3 remaining tanks head for the urban area to plan another ambush. Glorianus takes the bait again, with one Matilda being taken out by a Stug in the alleyway. The Type 89 also gets a lucky kill on a second Matilda with some cloak and dagger, utilizing an empty garage as bait. Unfortunately for the Type 89, their plan didn't work and the Matilda knocked them out after spinning its turret around and finding out where they actually were. And double, unfortunately, the Stug gets knocked out because their banners gave their position away. Because for some reason, these little faggots thought that this would substitute as a good excuse for camouflage. The remaining St. Glorianus tank link up and give Miho chase, cornering her in another alleyway. All looks lost when the 38T screams into battle heroically to save the day, and it's full of holes. Yeah, how'd that plan work out for you, jackass? Miho cleverly uses the 38T's loss to get the hell out of Dodge, taking out 2 Matildas that had followed her in pursuit. Miho gambles on winning the skirmish by dueling Darjeeling directly, with Mako pulling off a sick tank drift. But unfortunately the Panzer IV's gun comes up short and barely scratches the paint on Darjeeling's Churchill, costing Uri the match. Miho Squad and the Student Council partake in the aforementioned public cock and ball humiliation ritual, as per their terms, and we get to meet Hana's mom, who does not appreciate her daughter's obsession with violent tank sex and her polygamous lesbian relationship, saying that Hana's hands are solely for touching flowers and flowers only in this Christian household, goddammit. Hana's manservant takes all the girls back to Ori after her stern talking to, and Miho is officially dubbed the head commander of Ori for real this time. Guess all that dick flattening in front of the crowd really paid off. Episode 4 wraps up with the girls receiving news that their first opponent in the tournament will be Saunders High School, the American analog. They're loud, rich, and love to eat. We get to see a clip of some Shermans moving in formation, and Episode 4 comes to a close. Episode 5 starts off with the girls in a tank cafe where they order these really cute looking tank cakes. I kinda want one, I'm not gonna lie to you. Miho's older sister Maho and her lapdog Erica crash the girls' party and start talking some mad shit. Mako serves all of Erica's shit right back to her, and then they piss off for a little bit. Yukari then goes on to explain that the two come from Kuro Morimine, Miho's old school, which is the German analog for the show. Later that night, the Glowies inform Miho that there will be more cock and ball torture in for her if she loses their first match of the tournament, and Miho laments about not being able to find out what Saunders' starting lineup is to strategize around. By the next day, the girls are looking for Yukari because apparently she's gone missing, crashing in on her parents who are surprised to find out that their daughter even has friends at all. Did I mention that Yukari is almost definitely autistic? Her parents let the girls stay in her room until she comes back, only to find out that their Q-tip-looking friend is a wereaboo femcel chud that spends way too much time on r/girls and shitposts. Though while we are here, we do get a shot of some of Yukari's scale models on her shelf, those being a British Cromwell cruiser tank, an American M10 tank destroyer, a German armored car with a name too complex to even bother pronouncing, a Panzer II, a Panzer III command tank, I think, a 38T in a flak panzer configuration, and a Panzer IV Broombar self-propelled howitzer. As much as I would love to, I won't elaborate beyond that as to their specifics so we can save on time. Yukari returns, climbing in through the window in a different school uniform, revealing that she snuck into Saunders undercover to gather information, showing us the many Sherman tanks that Saunders has at their disposal. Most of them in a standard olive green paint job, but some sporting desert camo and sand skirts which were made to keep dust down. From what I gather, the British did not like these things either, and very frequently removed them from the tanks they operated. With her little camcorder handy, Yukari snuck into the assembly where the Saunders top dogs reveal their lineup. A Sherman Firefly armed with a 17-pounder, which is a British tank technically, one Sherman M4A376W, which means that it has a welded hull and 76mm gun, and 8 garden variety Shermans all fitted with the standard 75mm gun. The Sherman itself is a contender for the best tank of World War II, and people far smarter than me can elaborate as to why specifically, but the Sherman is my personal favorite, so obviously it's the best one, and everybody else is wrong. In all seriousness though, it is pretty much one of the best tanks of the war, if not the best, and I'm not the only one that thinks that. Pretty much as soon as the M4 entered production, the British and the Russians were scrambling, trying to get their hands on as many as America was willing to give them. It was reliable, fast, easy to work on, and sported a 75mm gun that could kill just about everything it came across on every front of the war. It wasn't until the very end of the war with the newest German and Soviet designs that the question of the M4's adequacy even became relevant. I mean, hell, technically speaking, the first tanks to even enter Berlin were Russian-operated M4 Shermans, if that gives you any idea of just how good these things were. Though they got there late, they were used beyond World War II into the Korean War and even saw service beyond that in the hands of different nations, including Israel, who modified Shermans as late as 1973 under the M51 moniker. And just to keep the glazing streak going, America made so many of these damn things that after the war some were just dumped into the ocean because High Command didn't know what to do with them beyond that. Anyway, Yukari finds out that Saunders will be fielding their tanks in 3 groups of 3, with the flag tank being left undefended. I would like to remind you that if the flag tank dies first, their team loses the game. Seems self-explanatory, but just in case you couldn't figure that one out on your own, there you go. According to Kay, the blonde one, a single Sherman can knock out any of Arai's tanks, including the Stug 3, the one that poses the most danger to them, which is fair and historically accurate. Not long after her butting in, her cover is blown and Yukari dips. Miho compliments Yukari on her recon mission, and Yukari responds by trauma dumping about her stupid chud life, saying how she has no friends besides the tanks that she used to visit at museums. Hana blames Yukari's struggle to make friends on her hairline, which I thought was funny. Cue another epic training montage, and we get to see Arai's tanks in their proper camouflage, trading out the gaudy colors for simple grays and greens, with decals annotating their teams. The Type 89 christened with a duck, the M3 Lee with a rabbit, the Stug a hippo, the 38T a turtle, and the Panzer IV with an anglerfish, which I will be referring to from here on out when speaking about the tanks' respective teams. We get some cringe to hold us over while Urai and Saunders mingle, and Kay tells Yukari that she would fancy Yukari sneaking in more often. Later on, Chief Glowy returns to the Urai team in some kind of armored personnel carrier. It doesn't have tread, so I don't give a shit about finding out what it is. Then the match starts. Rabbit Team attempts to ambush a convoy of Shermans before getting surrounded and ambushed themselves. Kay's Sherman follows in pursuit while Duck Team and Angler Team maneuver to support Rabbit Team. Yukari does some finger math to find out 9 of the 10 Saunders tanks are in the forest with them, leaving the flag tank alone and exposed. Miho plans a maneuver to cut through the surrounding tanks, which works. Rabbit Team bounces an incoming shell that should have turned everybody inside into tomato paste, and the 3 tanks make it out just fine. In the interim, Miho looks outside the tank and finds out that Saunders has a blimp in the sky that can intercept the radio transmissions, then devising a plan to use false directions to confuse the Saunders team. Kay seems ignorant to the wiretapping, and we quickly find out that it's all due to this little red-headed fuck. Duck Team diverts Saunders' attention by throwing up a lot of dust to lead them away, and Urai opens fire on the crowd. The Stug lands a killing blow on one of the Shermans, closing out the episode with Saunders retreating and regrouping. All the while, Darjeeling and Erica comment on Urai's abilities so far.
Talking about oil?
No, I heard oil. That shit is mine.
Episode 6 throws us right back into the action with more espionage. Ereza, or Erezu, fuck it, I'm just gonna call her Lisa. Lisa intercepts more of Miho's false information, guiding the rest of Saunders' team on a wild goose chase. While Lisa's kicking it in the woods, wondering where the rest of Urai's tanks are, Duck Team stumbles into them. We get this funny scene where the 2 teams are absolutely dumbfounded that they managed to find each other on complete accident, and Duck Team tries to break away. Lisa Sherman fervently follows Duck Team, but they manage to get out, due in no small part to Noriko Isobe, Duck Team's leader, spiking a smoke bomb at Lisa's tank. Duck Team leads Saunders' flag tank out into the open, right into Urai's gun line, but they fail to land a killing blow and sneak away. It's also about this point where Kay finds out about Lisa's scheming and rips her a new asshole for it over the radio. Kay, also being someone with morals, decides to cut Urai a break and meets them in equal strength, 5-on-5, taking Naomi and her Firefly with her. I like Naomi because she kinda looks like my mom when she was younger. No, I won't show you what she looks like, you fucking weirdos. Go away. Urai in full force gives the flag tank chase while Lisa's having a schizophrenic breakdown inside of her tank about how good the Sherman is. And I mean, she isn't wrong, you already heard me drone on about that. She also lets slip in the breakdown that Urai will be shutting down soon, which is, I don't know, probably important. Probably why our little federal agents have been so shifty about things. Lisa continues to babble on, and Kay's smaller force finally catch up with Urai, Angler Team commenting on how scary the Firefly is. With good reason, too. That thing was made to kill tigers, and they don't have one of those. Well, not yet anyway. Miho directs Rabbit Team and Duck Team to cover the rear, while she, Hippo, and Turtle Team close in on the flag tank. In the middle of all of this, Darjeeling shares some wisdom about cucumbers and that she likes being Eiffel Towered, or something about sandwiches, something like that. Naomi's Firefly scores some hits on Duck Team and Rabbit Team by dropping 17-pound loads into their engine compartments, kicking them out of the match and amping up the stakes. Lisa joyfully proclaims that she'll step on all of the Uri girls while they fervently guard the 38T, their flag tank. Saunders is catching up, taking pot shots all the while, and Uri continues to close in on Saunders' flag tank. Just as things start to look dire, Miho gives a speech that brings up the mood, taking a risky maneuver by choosing to attack from above, breaking formation with Lisa in her sights. Naomi attempts to intercept, lining up the shot, but all in all, it's too little too late. To wrap up the Saunders fight with a nice little bow, Saunders get a mutual kill on Angler Team, with Angler Team taking out their flag tank, winning Uri the match. After the match, Kay congratulates Miho and admits that she found out about the cheating midway, and attempted to uphold some standard of good sportsmanship, then turning around to threaten Lisa for all of her shenanigans during the game. If getting interrogated by Saunders is like getting interrogated by the CIA, we're probably not going to see Lisa again unless it's in some South American shithole pulling false flag operations. As episode 6 comes to a close, Maho gets a call from the hospital informing her that her grandma fell down. Maho offers Kuromori Mine's helicopter to get her and Sayori there, cause they just have one of those. And Erika knows how to fly it, cause sure, why not, she looks like she can fly a helicopter. The Glowies discuss their next matches, which are slated to be Pravda, the Russian school, then Kuromori Mine, which we talked about before already, who won their matches against the Polish school and Imperial Japanese school respectively. They do have names, but they don't get mentioned here. I'll throw something up on screen for those of you that care a little too much about it. And here is our halfway point. Should be mostly action from here on out, but while I got your attention, I wanted to say thanks for watching. It means a lot. I'm not going to ask you to do all the pleasantries like some bitch with numbers to crunch. I do this as a hobby. I don't care about money, and I care even less about censorship, which hurts my ability to make money anyway. But if you do like what I got going on here in this little ramshackle hole in the wall, let me know what I can do better. I know my video editing skills are terrible, this is literally my first video. But any and all criticism is welcome, even if you just want to tell me that I suck.
You don't mind if I bleed?
What?
What?
I'm bleeding right now. Only if it's onto my pizza.
Episode 7 starts with Hana, Yukari, and Miho visiting the other two and Mako's grandma in the hospital. Despite just taking a fall, the spry old bat is still full of piss and vinegar. She roasts the dog shit out of her own granddaughter during the entire visit and keeps trying to usher Mako and her friends out, insisting that she's perfectly fine, thank you. When Mako's grandma kicks them all out, Sayori drops some exposition that Mako's parents died in an accident after they got into a huge argument, and that her grandmother is her only living relative that's still around. Which, like, okay, girls in Panzer, way to tug at my heartstrings. Poor little sleepyhead's one staircase away from being an orphan. Mako's backstory triggers a PTSD flashback in Miho's memory regarding her own shithead mom, who's berating her for being a good person and not wanting to be a soulless corporate shill for Raytheon. We skip forward to Angler Team hanging out in the garage and talking all buddy-buddy, all the while dropping exposition that doesn't really matter, at least initially. And Miho finally spills the beans on why she first didn't want anything to do with tankery. Turns out in her last finals match against Pravda, when she was still part of Kuromori Mine, she had jumped out of her tank to rescue some of her friends, whose tanks slid into a fucking river and would have drowned if Miho didn't save them. Kuromori Mine lost the match, of course, because Miho's tiger was the flag tank, which, again, Jesus fucking Christ, girl, your family is evil. They did not let that shit slide. Pardon the pun. Yukari openly sympathizes with Miho's decision, because, let's be real, who wouldn't, then gets so happy that Miho thanked her for agreeing she starts stimming. Yeah, Yukari's autistic, he said the thing, very funny. We then cut to the student council discussing their next match with Anzio High School, who are the Italian analogs. We don't get to see the fight proper in the original series, though they do get their own OVA, so I'm not going to touch on it here until we touch on the OVAs another time. Spoiler alert, Uri wins. There's still like 5 episodes left. What did you think was going to happen? Shortly after her info dump, Miho gets swarmed by the rest of the Uri team after they barge into the garage, all begging her for advice. While she's getting swarmed with questions, we do get this funny sequence of one of the freshmen complaining to Miho that her boyfriend left her because of tankery. That guy was a pussy anyway, so no real loss. The rest of Angler Team steps in to share some of the burden and help Miho assist the rest of the girls with their issues. Mako steps in to teach Duck Team how to drive, cause woman moment. Sayori fumbles the bag in front of the freshman, rookie mistake.
What do you mean by that?
Then Hana and Miho go to deal with the feds, who let her know she's doing just a swell job. She might even get witness protection when all of this is said and done. During their meeting, Hana reads some old documents and finds evidence suggesting that Uri has more hidden tanks stashed away somewhere, and the girls split up to go look for them. Miho and Mako pair up with Duck Team, and Yukari tags along with Hippo Team. Meanwhile, Sayori takes the freshmen into a secluded part of the ship for ethical and synergistic reasons. Mako finds a new gun for the Panzer IV in some rundown apartment complex, and Hippo Team find a Char B-1 Bis. To wrap up Episode 7, Angler Team goes on a rescue mission to find Sayori and the freshmen. We get more fan service, yucky, and we get a little scene of Arai beating the Anzio Team. Again, not really surprising, there's still 5 episodes left. No, that's not Miku, that's Anchovy, and she makes a damn good shrimp fettuccine. I love my little fascist Italian Miku. I love her so much. And since it was on screen, I get to talk about tanks again. The Char B-1 Bis is the successor of the Char B-1, a French heavy tank that saw most of its service life during the invasion of France in 1940. On the outside, they're functionally identical, but it's important to note that the B-1 Bis had more armor and a stronger engine, but other than that, they're practically the same tank. It features a similar setup to the M3 Lee, with a 47mm gun in the turret and a fixed 75mm hull cannon, but it's French, so it's dumb and gay and worse. They can't even design an assault rifle. What gave you the idea they can design tanks? The hull-mounted cannon can't move side to side, only up and down, meaning you have to move the whole tank just to line up a shot. Unlike other casemate-mounted style guns, which allow the gun to move, even if in a limited fashion, independently from the rest of the vehicle. Though in the B-1's case, it was made primarily for blowing up obstacles, so accuracy wasn't very important, especially when you're aiming at targets the size of houses. On paper, this tank was superior to everything the German army had at the onset of the war, which was primarily equipped with Panzer Is, IIs, and limited amounts of the early Panzer IIIs and IVs. But in practice, their German counterparts were able to run circles around these big French beasts and just go around them, thanks in no small part to the Blitzkrieg battle doctrine. After France fell, the B-1s that were still around saw limited use in German hands, often being converted into flamethrower tanks. Though when France was eventually liberated, Free French forces grabbed as many as they could get their hands on to join the fight towards Berlin. When they did see action, their performance could be compared to early British and Soviet heavy tanks. Their armor was practically impenetrable at this stage of the war, though they shared the British problem of having terrible guns, and the Soviet problem of being forced to blunt the Blitzkrieg, which didn't work very well for either of them.
That's on the тележке! На тележке!
On to Episode 8, we get to see the Pravda school ship moving through icy waters. Pravda is aggressively Russian, with all the stereotypes that follow. Figure that goes without explanation, but just in case you need some pointers, just watch the show and you'll find out very quickly what I mean. We jump cut to Darjeeling meeting with the senior members of the Pravda team, Katyusha and Nona, the source of Girls and Panzer's longest running jokes that are not funny at all. Katyusha acts like a miniaturized Soviet dictator, a statement on its own that's been memed to hell, and Nona, well, she exists. Darjeeling informs them that facing Arai on the battlefield should give them trouble, and we cut to see Arai's automotive club working on the B-1. They also took the liberty of installing the new gun on the Panzer IV, upgrading it to an F2 variant. This upgrade was done as a knee-jerk response by the German army to counter British and Russian heavy tanks, and to hold them over until something like the Panther or Tiger could be completed, but ended up sticking around in this configuration for the rest of the war. On a side note, since I feel like talking about it, during the war, the Panzer III and Panzer IV actually ended up swapping roles. During the first years of the war, it was the Panzer III that handled tank-on-tank combat, and the Panzer IV pulling infantry support. Though with the Panzer IV's larger size, it allowed it to be retrofitted with larger guns easier. Around the same time the Panzer IV started rolling off the lines with the F2 cannons, the Panzer IIIs were upgraded with low-velocity 75mm guns. Not unlike the ones the Panzer IV had at the beginning of the war. Just a little tidbit of knowledge for your punk ass. We cut to Arai, and the feds wonder who's going to pilot the new tank, when 3 girls with equally atrocious fuck-ass bobs show up and announce that they'll be joining the team. Hey, wait a minute, we've seen this one before. Her name's Sadoko, by the way. Mako gets put in charge of training the newly christened Mallard team on how to drive and rage-bait Sadoko while the feds give us more exposition. Pravda's going to be their next opponent, obviously, and the school is shutting down if they lose. Obviously. Lisa tipped us off to that in the Saunders match if you remember her. Anzu, well, shit, I forgot to tell you that's her name, takes Miho up to the student council where we get some lore on the other glowies. The other two's names are Yuzu and Momo, by the way. I think I told you about Momo already. Anzu admits when Miho leaves to Momo and Yuzu that she couldn't really break the news, and we cut to Maho and Shiho, their mom, go on about the Nishizumi name. That and how Miho can't be arsed to give a damn about it. We see the Arai girls prepare for the winter match, and the rest of the team bring Mallard team into the fold. Miho talks to the Hat Man while discussing strategy and lists the tanks that Pravda will be using in their match, which I'll discuss when they're on screen properly. When they get to the battleground, the girls complain about being cold, and Miho explains that their tanks were fitted with Winterkitten, also known as Ostkitten. I'm pretty sure they're the same thing. These were a real upgrade, but only existed on German tanks, hence the name. Winterkitten and Ostkitten being track extension that provides better traction on the Eastern Front during the winter and summer periods. Katyusha and Nona pull up in a Katyusha rocket truck because of branding, and Katyusha grills the girls for looking like a bunch of pansies. She refers to herself in the third person, which is supposed to be funny. Then Nona puts Katyusha on her shoulders to stroke her ego in front of Urai. Miho catches Katyusha's eyes and compliments her on fucking up Kuromura Mine's match last year, asking her to do it again. Urai goes over their strategy as a team and hopes are high, choosing to attack Pravda's force all at once. Also, Russia winter joke. Get it? Fighting Russians in the winter? Are you laughing yet? We finally get to see Pravda's tanks as they move in formation, a slew of T-34 Russian medium tanks, supported with one KV-2 and one IS-2. The T-34 tank is practically a national hero in Russia, and was one of the sole contributing factors that helped the Soviet Union win the war, making around 80,000 of them over the course of the war, with some rolling right out of the factory and onto the battlefield in some cases, since the factory was literally being sieged as the tanks were being built. It was relatively fast and a pretty tough nut to crack, fitted with Christie suspension invented by one J. Walter Christie, an American funnily enough. The angled armor of the T-34, despite being a nebulous topic in its own right, went on to inspire the German army to adapt it onto the Panzer tank, and that fact alone has caused years of debate over its relative importance during the war. The T-34 became the most numerous tank of the war and beat back the Germans with great effect, despite its horrific quality of construction. It was frequently tinkered with and upgraded throughout the duration of the war, first being fitted with a short 76mm gun, then a long 76, then finally an 85mm gun and a new turret. The T-34, despite its age, is still in use to the present day, seeing action as late as the Yemeni Civil War, which is still ongoing. The KV-2, conversely, is an offensive artillery piece that was first used in the Winter War for bunker busting, but it was almost completely wiped out during Operation Barbarossa. The Russians threw everything they had at the Germans to slow down the Blitz, including this big guy. Even with some surviving examples, the higher-ups decided that an offensive vehicle wasn't necessary to help them win the defensive war that they now found themselves in, cutting off production to presumably build more T-34s. It's armed with a 152mm howitzer with ammunition that's shipped as two separate pieces and demanding two separate loaders to fire the damn gun. Like its predecessor, the KV-1, the KV series as a whole was famed for its near-impenetrable armor at the early stages of the war, with several accounts of single vehicles holding off entire German offenses because they couldn't figure out how to kill them, with the crews only abandoning the vehicles after they ran out of ammunition. Lastly, there's the IS-2, or JS-2 depending on how you pronounce Joseph. The IS series is functionally the successor of the KV pattern tanks, supporting almost the exact same hull and running gear but with a new turret design. The IS-2 comes standard with a whopping 122mm gun and a massive turret. First seeing combat in 1944, the Soviets used the IS-2 as a breakthrough vehicle that could shrug off incoming fire and return it in full, with some sources citing that they killed around 40 Tigers and Elephant tanks with only 9 losses during a single battle in Ukraine. Just under 4,000 were made, with its successors in the IS series quickly taking its spot, though as technology improved, the Soviets followed in the footsteps of the West with a medium-weight main battle tank of their own not long after. Something important to mention about Soviet tanks in particular is that yes, there were literal thousands of them, and on paper they were great vehicles, but in practical application due to many contributing factors, the tanks themselves were often very poor in quality. Planned obsolescence is the name of the game, and the Soviets knew this very well with the attrition war they were fighting in the East against the Germans. There's several recorded instances of tanks being shipped out with missing gun sights, shoddy welds, and other important components simply missing or straight up just not working. Katyusha and Nona get more screen time, both operating separate T-34-85s. The two chatter while in formation, with Katyusha saying every team member that fails owes her money, and the Pravda girls break out into song, singing the Russian folk song Katyusha because of branding. As much as I dislike Pravda based on principle, the song itself is a banger. The song comes to a close and we get to see Urai moving in formation, with Sayori complaining about the cold again. A pair of Pravda girls relay Urai's movements to Katyusha while Maller team gets hung up in the snow. Mako comes to the rescue, much to Sadoko's displeasure, and Hana clears the way with an HE shell and all proceeds swimmingly, which her mother takes no joy in seeing. Urai encounters 3 T-34s, with Hippo Team and Angler Team taking 2 of them out. The new gun raises morale with its performance, and Urai pursues the remaining T-34, leading them to the main force. Hippo Team scores another knockout, and Pravda seemingly retreats, but Miho worries that they might be onto something. Pravda leads them downhill into a village where they encircle the Uri team and open fire en masse. The M3 loses its hull gun and Uri retreats into a big church. The Stug loses a tread with Angler team intercepting Pravda's retaliation, bouncing shells that would have painted the Panzer IV's insides red, which jams up the turret. They all huddle into the church with the shelling continuing until it suddenly stops. Pravda sends 2 emissaries to the Uri team asking for them to surrender. The Uri girls get to talking, discussing the terms of surrender, where Mobo finally admits without any uncertainty that if Uri loses the national tournament that the school will be shut down and Miho will lose all of the friends she just made. That's when the episode's credits roll. Episode 9 picks up with Anzu, Momo, and Yuzu speaking with the headmaster, who explains to them what we, the audience, already know and have been told multiple times. The school's shutting down, blah blah blah. We've gone over this no less than, 4 times now? We cut back to present day with Anzu telling Miho that the tanks that they already have are the ones they literally couldn't give away with all of the school's financial trouble. Morale practically jumps off a cliff as reality sets in, and Miho attempts to rouse them with a speech. We get slapped with some ooey-gooey feel-good bits, and the girls get to work on repairing their tanks. The crowd seems equally confused as to why Pravda is offering surrender, with Shiho threatening to abandon her daughter again, regardless of what happens. We cut to Pravda's perspective, where Katyusha threatens to make Uri tend their wheat fields as terms of surrender, and Nona sings her a lullaby as she falls asleep in a sled. Uri gets to work on repairs, Miho and the student council discuss strategy, and Yukari goes on a scouting mission with Erwin from Hippo Team, the Werebu. They sing a Japanese march song, which doesn't sound too bad in the sub, but in the dub, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's fucking awful.
Marching in the thick snow, treading on the ice together. None of us can tell what is a river or a road. The forest collapses, but don't leave anyone behind. Everywhere we go,
Mako and Sadoko are also out scouting, and they bicker like an old married couple about tank names. Pravda spots them, and they fall back, still arguing with each other. The 4 scouts return and pass on information to the strategists, and Mako ragebaits Sadoko some more about getting them spotted. The Uri girls continue to suffer through the cold as repairs come to a close, as the individual teams are talking with each other. We also find out that their food is almost gone, while some of the Pravda girls are doing that stereotypical Russian squat dance around a fire. Morale plummets again, and Miho tries again to raise their spirits. We get a heaping helping of cringe as Miho does the Anko dance, which somehow works. Shiho questions getting a post-birth abortion as she watches her daughter's antics on the big screen. Then a girl from Pravda comes to see if they'll surrender, to which Uri dashes any and all hopes of complete Soviet victory. Katyusha admits to laying a trap that she expects Uri to fall for, and the Uri girls speed out of the church into oncoming enemy fire, the 38T leading the charge as Uri charges for the thicker side of Pravda's defense, foiling Katyusha's plan. The 38T knocks out a T-34 as they break through their defense with 4 Pravda tanks ahead of them. Uri's main force breaks off in formation while Turtle Team takes on the Pravda force head-on, taking out a T-34's tracks, then their engine. They take out some more tracks, and another T-34 as they retreat. Turtle Team then gets sucker punched by the IS-2, which flips the 38T and knocks Turtle Team out of the match. Pravda regroups and follows Uri's main force with 6 tanks. Miho orders Hippo Team to switch up their formation as they move to pursue the flag tank with her, ordering the rest of the force to protect the Type 89, their flag tank. Miho aura farms on top of the tank as Uri breaks their formation and sends Yukari out to scout again. Nona switches from her T-34 over to the IS-2, and Yukari relays that she spotted the flag tank. Nona engages Duck Team, Mallard Team, and Rabbit Team as they attempt to evade Pravda's force, shelling them as they head back into the village. The IS-2 knocks out the M3 Lee, and the KV-2 covers the flag tank's retreat. Hippo and Angler Team gangbang the KV-2 right as Mallard Team is knocked out, leaving Uri's flag tank defenseless. Miho orders Hippo Team to stop the flag tank, and we see Duck Team getting battered by incoming fire, which they can barely evade. Friendly reminder that they have paper-thin armor, and the Type 89 was not designed to go that fast. Pravda's flag tank remarks that only the Panzer IV is following them, and we see the Type 89 almost do a front flip trying to avoid enemy fire. Miho forces Pravda's flag tank down an alleyway, presumably into the Stug's line of fire, right as the IS-2 hits the Type 89 and the Stug puts down Pravda's flag tank. I don't even want to know how they were able to bury the Stug under 4 feet of snow like that in 30 seconds, but the episode ends with both teams left in confusion as to who really won the match.
No, I'm not defending German technical superiority, I'm stating the fucking obvious!
Let's see how many more times I can say the words practically impenetrable, why don't we? Episode 10 picks up on Episode 9's cliffhanger with the Type 89 barely scraping by intact, rolling over on one track before finally kicking the bucket. Urai's trap to kill Pravda's flag tank paid off, winning them the match. Katyusha cries, reveling in her defeat, confronting Miho about not falling into the trap she set at the church. She begrudgingly admits that Urai is victorious and shakes Miho's hand, saying that she'll be attending the finals match to watch Miho fight. Shiho and Maho talk about the turnout, with Maho batting for her little sister in the face of her mother's scorn, complimenting her on her decision-making, with Shiho pulling the heresy card and ordering Maho to destroy her in the final match. We jump to the next day with Miho and the student council discussing strategy for the upcoming match, noting how Kuro Morimine has superior firepower and numbers, fielding 20 tanks, all of which I'll discuss when they're on screen like I did with Pravda's. They discuss upgrading their tanks, with them also discussing the presence of an 88mm, which I seem to miss in my note-taking for the script, so yeah, sorry about that. Apparently the automotive team has been working on it this whole time, my bad. Yuzu relays that the automotive team has finished restoring this fabled 88mm when we finally get to see it, welcoming the Porsche Tiger to the team. The Porsche Tiger, as the name would suggest, is the Tiger design that Porsche developed when trying to win the military contract Big H had pushed out. According to the H-Man, the Tiger needed to be fitted with an 88mm gun, pretty much the most effective anti-tank gun the German army had up to that point, with everything else that wasn't the gun and armor specifications coming up secondary. Porsche developed their Tiger prototype based on a dual petro-electric propulsion system that was over-engineered and significantly underpowered to propel the tank's weight around, but nonetheless submitted the prototype for testing. Porsche had also begun production of 100 tanks before the trials were even decided, because they were so confident they would win. Porsche's prototype met the Henschel prototype for trials, where the drivetrain became overstressed and caught fire on the spot, winning Henschel the contract even though their Tigers were also problematic. Unamused about his loss, Porsche and H-Man allowed the hulls already produced and still in production to be converted into tank destroyers, which turned into the Ferdinand and Elephant tanks. One turreted Porsche Tiger did fight in the war, serving as a command vehicle for a squad of Ferdinand tank destroyers, with all three vehicles performing surprisingly well when they could get into proper positions to face enemy tanks. But doing so proved dangerous since the damn thing's transmissions vaporized at the sight of a 20-degree incline. The show lets us see exactly what I just described, with the Porsche Tiger getting stuck in the mud and catching fire. Yukari defends the Porsche Tiger to the rest of the girls present, which is fair. The gun is really strong. We cut to the freshmen complaining about how hard it is to find new tanks, walking by a Type 3 Chi Nu because the word oblivious doesn't exist in their vocabulary. Anzu shows off the top half of a Hetzer tank destroyer she bought for the team, saying that they can simply convert the 38T into a Hetzer. Which, no, that didn't even happen in real life. They have completely different hulls and running gears, they just so happen to look similar. Momo also says that they should update the Panzer IV by outfitting it with side skirts, also known as Schürzen, which was a real thing found on German tanks. It was discovered that spacing out panels of armor proved effective at stopping rounds fired from anti-tank rifles as well as heat shells, which is why the Germans used them on their weaker tanks to upgrade them. If you didn't know, heat shells work by blasting a jet of molten copper through the armor of a tank. They maintain consistent penetration metrics at virtually any range, which works great if you hit the main body, but becomes functionally useless in the face of spaced armor or explosive reactive armor. We also get introduced to a gamer girl that stinks good who wants to join the team. Her name is Neko-chan, and she leads Miho and the freshmen to a Type 3 Chi Nu. I guess I gotta talk about it since it's here. The Type 3 Chi Nu is a Japanese medium tank that was made in preparation for the invasion of the home island, but never saw a conflict due to the way that the war ended. If you somehow don't know what happened, 2 suns rose over the land of the rising sun twice in 3 days. Based on the previous Chi-Ha chassis, the Chi Nu was fitted with a 75mm anti-tank gun and a new turret, the largest gun that Japan had put onto any tank that they mass-produced, with anywhere from 140 to 160 examples being made. These sorry excuses for heavy industry were supposed to be Japan's answer to the Sherman, and not a single one ever got to fight one, unfortunately. But I can tell you with confidence it wouldn't have ended well. As much as I love Japanese tanks, these things would have been chewed up and spat out effortlessly. The Automotive Club also decides to join the tankery team, piloting the Porsche Tiger they got in running order. Neko-chan brings some of her friends she met online to help her pilot the Chi Nu, and the Student Council converts the 38T into a Hetzer, which I gotta talk about because it's on screen too. The Hetzer, like many obsolete vehicles Germany had in its clutches, was an attempt to upgun and up-armor old vehicles to give them a fighting chance, based on a modified 38T chassis with bigger wheels and a wider hull. The Hetzer was designed as a tank destroyer made to replace the older Stugs and open-top tank destroyers, which it did well enough. Its 75mm gun proved capable, but the conditions of the crew were cramped and hazardous. About 2,800 were made and saw most of their service life towards the end of the war. They were frequently cited as being a mobile coffin, but performed well enough and had favorable matchup statistics. If you main this thing in World of Tanks, you're a cunt and I hate you. Mako brings rice cakes to Angler Team that her grandma made, and Hana announces that she has a flower arrangement competition to go to on Saturday, which Angler Team attends. It's a tank. Flowers in a tank. Hana's mom crashes the party, admitting her daughter's previous work had no soul, and finally comes around to accepting her lesbian inclinations. Her flowers are alright too, I guess. The student council makes Miho give a speech before the finals, where she tells them that Kuromori Mine is their next opponent and her previous school. She also says that Urai is her new home and promises to keep a cool head. We cut to Kuromori Mine's perspective as Maho looks over their inventory of tanks, and the day closes with Urai's practice being dismissed. Sayori invites the rest of Angler Team to Miho's house, and the student council go to a restaurant. Sayori announces to Angler Team that she got her ham radio license, and Miho tells her that she gets no bitches. Sayori tells Miho that she should get some bitches instead, and Miho reveals to the rest of Angler Team that she's gay for them. Especially Yukari, specifically because she's autistic. We get shots of Duck Team, Hippo Team, the Automotive Club, the Gamer Girls, Mallard Team, and Rabbit Team enjoying their respective teammates' company. Side note, Rabbit Team is watching Kelly's Heroes, which is fucking based because it's a damn good movie. Sorry I had to talk about it. The next day, we see preparations for the upcoming match being made, with Uchiha making a cameo appearance at the fairground. It's on screen for like half a second, and the script is getting long enough already, so I'm just gonna move on, forgive me. St. Gloriana's and Saunders senior members wish Miho good luck, and Katyusha holds true to her promise to watch the finals match. Darjeeling calls Miho a strange person and distributes some good old English wisdom before Urai and Kuromori Mine square off. With Maho and Erika meeting with Momo and Miho, Erika immediately talks shit, as she's one to do, and they wish each other's teams good luck. Before the teams break off and go to their starting positions, the commander of the tank Miho saved from drowning comes up to her, thanking her for saving her and the rest of her team from what would have absolutely been certain death, because I mean, come on, just look at that. Every woman in that tank would have been a dead man if Miho didn't throw the match. Miho tells the rest of Urai to prepare for a battle of attrition, and they all hop into their vehicles to start the match. Maho gets her team ready and the match begins. Urai's tanks move in formation to meet Kuromori Mine's force head-on. Kuromori Mine attacks Urai's force from the forest, which they used as a shortcut, because Germany, and we get some shots of the tanks in their lineup. A pair of Panther medium tanks and a Jagdpanzer IV. The Jagdpanzer is a similar story to the Stug and Hetzer, and I've already discussed those two in detail. This one's built on the Panzer IV chassis and follows the same design principles of being cheap and effective means of providing anti-tank support. The Panther, however, is a story in its own right. The Panther was Germany's proper answer to the heavy tanks fielded by the Russians and the British, but saw most of its life in the European theater of war. Sporting an even longer 75mm gun, thick angled armor, and a bunch of other little nifty features like neutral steering and interleaved road wheels. The Panthers, while effective in their role, were plagued with horrific mechanical issues in their early designs, with relatively simple jobs like working on the transmission involving having to take the turret off and pulling the tranny out from the turret ring. Those road wheels also made technicians' lives terrible, as even though they worked, both theoretically and practically, it effectively tripled the length and cost of repairs if they were damaged due to their complex design. When the growing pains were through, the Panther did its job well and worked better more often than the infamous Tiger, being cheaper to build and equally effective in combat. Italy even made prospects to open a Panther factory somewhere in Italy, but nothing ever came of that idea. We also get shots of a Jagdpanther, which is the assault gun variant of the Panther tank. Again, refer to previous notes about other assault guns for the story on that one, as well as a Tiger II sporting a Henschel turret. We also see a Ferdinand, which I discussed when talking about the Porsche Tiger, and a Jagdtiger, which I'm sure you can guess what it does and what it was made for. Then we get to see the infamous Tiger I in all its glory, with Maho's Tiger sporting the same number as Panzer Ace Michael Wittmann's Tiger, number 212. The Tiger I is a tank you've definitely heard of, even if you know nothing about tanks. It's the poster boy, the one that gets all the attention, and the one that suffers from acute chronic Hollywood syndrome. Untold numbers of books, articles, and twitlongers have been made about this thing, all with questionable amounts of bias. The Tiger has its roots all the way before the war even started in 1934, as the H-Man wanted what he called a breakthrough tank, something with a big gun and a metric fuck-ton of armor to steamroll enemy lines and allow the Blitzkrieg to follow in its wake. The Tiger was the first vehicle to mount the fearsome German 88mm gun and a rotating turret, making it deadly at all ranges of engagement. However, the Tiger, like the Panther, suffered horrendous mechanical issues in its early years. The Germans tinkered with the Tiger throughout its entire production run, with later models being more reliable than that of the Panther, but production standards fell off a cliff as the war progressed into its final years. Less than 2,000 examples were made, but with how often you see this thing pop up, you'd think Germany built millions of them. Only one running example exists, which is Tiger 131, the golden child of Bovington Tank Museum's lineup. The Tiger II, since we're talking about its dad, was the successor, if the number didn't tip you off to that. The Tiger II follows all the same design principles that the Tiger did while bringing some over from the Panther, utilizing sloped armor fitted onto a new hull with a new turret, sporting an even longer, newer 88mm gun. with Kuromori Mine sporting the production turret, which is referred to as the Henschel turret in nomenclature, though Krupp was actually the one who made it. Less than 500 of these things were made, and just like its dad, the Tiger II had endless amounts of slop for all you history piggies to gorge on. It performed well enough, even with the generational trauma that came with the big cat's mechanical issues, but being the most expensive, mass-produced German tank of the war, its track record is somewhat skewed. The Jagdtiger uses the hull of the Tiger II, by the way, forgot to mention that one earlier. It mounts a 128mm gun in a casemate like the Stug and Jagdpanzer IV. Consult previous notes if you want to know why they did that. Anyway, Miho orders Urai to zigzag towards the forest, with Kuromori Mine replying in kind with continued volleys. The Type 3, dubbed as Anteater Team, and the Chi Nu suffers a debilitating skill issue, conveniently eating the shot from Erika's tank aimed at the Panzer IV, Urai's flag tank for the match. Anteater Team is knocked out, and the episode comes to a close. Episode 11 continues as follows, with Kuromori Mine moving in formation out of the forest, following Urai out into a field. They continue to shell Urai as they execute a smokescreen maneuver to cover their advance, much to Erika's annoyance. Maho keeps her from rushing in and wasting ammo while relaying that Urai is moving towards a hill, but their ability to take it remains questionable due to the Porsche Tiger's sluggishness. Miho cleverly utilizes Hippo Team and Rabbit Team's tanks to help them tow Lion Team's Porsche Tiger up the hill, faster than Erika and Maho expected them to. Oryu from Hippo Team calls the Porsche Tiger a fat ass as Duck Team and Mallard Team spread more smoke around the base of the hill.
You weren't even facing me, you fat fuck!
Kuromori Mine opens fire with high explosive shells to dispel the smoke, and we see the Hetzer in waiting, sniping the stragglers of Kuromori Mine's force with ease, blasting the tracks off of the Jagdpanther and a normal Panther before being forced to relocate. Kuromori Mine tightens their formation and stops at the foot of the hill, Maho ordering her tanks to surround them, and Miho orders Urai to begin bombardment on the advancing Kuromori Mine tanks. Two of them are knocked out as Maho orders the Jagdtiger to act as the spear tip for their advance. Urai opens fire on the Jagdtiger with no success, its armor shrugging off everything they can throw at it. The shelling continues as Urai's tanks take a beating, but lose no vehicles atop the hill. Turtle Team watches from afar, commenting on how Kuromori Mine definitely predicted they'd use the hill to their advantage. Anzu asks Miho over the radio if she wants to do it, and Miho gladly accepts, asking to initiate Operation Teasy Tease. Anzu eagerly prepares to start teasing Kuromori Mine's tanks, blasting the tracks off of the same Jagdtiger they shot already. Turtle Team weaves in and out of Kuromori Mine's formation, causing them to divert their attention, costing them a Jagdpanzer IV. Urai creeps down the hill, keeping up the pressure. Kei and Lisa address how Kuromori Mine's usual tactics fall short in the face of Urai's unconventional approach. Miho then orders her tanks to push through Kuromori Mine's right flank, using the Porsche Tiger as a spear tip to blast right through, covering their retreat with smoke. The Porsche Tiger's armor holds firm, but the beast is beginning to suffer some mechanical issues. The Automotive Club repairs the Porsche Tiger while it's still driving, no doubt committing several OSHA violations in the process. Erika tries to chase them down, but ends up throwing a track due to the aforementioned mechanical problems that plague Kuromori Mine's lineup. Urai comes up to a river and attempt to ford it, though Rabbit Team's M3 stalls out while trying to cross. They tell the rest of the team not to worry about them right as the tank is threatening to tip over onto its side. In a river. Definitely something to worry about. Miho starts getting Vietnam flashbacks, and Sayori encourages her to take charge and save Rabbit Team. Miho exits the Panzer IV and parkours her way over to them, and like, damn, this bitch has a 15-foot standing long jump. Goddamn girl, you picked the wrong sport. Miho arrives at Rabbit Team's tank and preps to tow them out while the rest of Urai's tanks cover them from the advancing Kuromori Mine force. The Hetzer tries to sneak up on the formation, but is quickly shooed away by a Panther before they can do any damage. Rabbit Team gets their tank running again, and Urai gets across the river, leaving Kuromori Mine in the dust. Erika wonders where they're off to, and Maho says they're probably heading for the town. We see a Panzer III pulling scout duty for Kuromori Mine, relaying the information of Urai's movements to Erika. The Urai force crosses a bridge leading into said town, with the Porsche Tiger demolishing the bridge after it crosses. Erika ordering the Panzer III to go around the bridge and follow them in. Miho spots the Panzer III as they pull into town, choosing to follow it deeper into the urban sprawl with the intent to kill. Urai chases the Panzer III to a dead end, and just as they ready their guns to take it out, we're greeted with the ass end of the Mouse, a tank so large the Urai girls think it's a wall. Darjeeling's mood sours as she comments on the Mouse while watching from the stand. Miho orders a hasty withdrawal as the Mouse unleashes a round, whizzing past Mallard Team and landing close to Turtle Team. Turtle Team gets rattled, but they're fine, and Mallard Team responds by firing both guns into the Mouse, who tank the rounds like, well, a tank. Then Mallard Team get blasted off of the face of the earth point blank. The Mouse hitting them with such force it flips the B-1 over onto its back.
Tom Holland, man, what the fuck? Man, I don't want to talk your bitch.
The mouse pursues Urai's tanks, who shrug off every single round Urai can throw at them, the 88 on the Porsche Tiger barely scratching the thing. The Stug attempts to retaliate, but is struck in the track, flipping it over onto its side and knocking Hippo Team out of the match. Miho remarks how they barely have 5 tanks left as we see the rest of Kuromori Mine's force approaching the town. Maho getting to pose all stoic in front of the camera as episode 11 ends. Now the mouse is an interesting case, as it holds a couple records to its name. It's the biggest tank ever built, both in size and in weight. It also has some of, if not the thickest armor ever put onto a vehicle before the invention of modern tank armor, coming in at a colossal 33 feet long, 12 feet wide, and weighing an eye-watering 188 tons. So heavy that no bridge in the world could support its weight without the damn thing atomizing it. The tracks alone are 3.5 feet wide just to compensate for its overwhelming girth. It was, in fact, so large that aircraft could feasibly hit it without ever having to change altitude. The mouse started as a passion project that H-Man personally commissioned Porsche, with 5 being ordered but only 2 holes and 1 turret being completed. Undergoing trials in 1944, the mouse could theoretically take on every single Allied tank in production at the time and win. It's fitted with a 128mm main gun, 2 coaxial guns, one being a 75 and the other a machine gun, and propelled by the biggest engine Daimler had to offer, though unfortunately paired with Porsche's dubious dual electric drive from the Porsche Tiger. Not the exact one, mind you, just one that was built very similarly, giving it a top speed of 12 miles an hour, which in retrospect is actually kind of scary. This thing could theoretically go faster than Matilda 2. The engine assembly takes up the middle portion of the tank, separating the driver and radio operator from the turret crew. The only example made was discovered at the factory it was assembled at and captured by the Soviets who used it for target practice, quickly coming to the horrifying realization that even their biggest guns could barely scratch the thing. What's crazy is that it's actually still around. You can go see it at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia, where it will probably stay indefinitely because there's next to nothing strong enough that can actually tow it. That and the damn thing is so big the facility had to practically be built around it, meaning that even if they tried, it would also destroy the very thing preserving it just to move it.
Hans, are we the baddies?
Episode 12 begins with the mouse looking down on Hippo Team and Mallard Team as they come to terms with their situation. Urai continues to batter the mouse with everything they have, which does nothing, because it's huge.
That's a huge bitch!
Urai's remaining tanks retreat, leading the mouse through the town. The Panzer III trails behind, confidently talking shit behind the mouse's souped-up superstructure before getting put down by a stray round. Cocky little shit had it coming. Sayori comments that the mouse looks like a tank on top of another tank, which is one of the statements of all time. Thankfully, this gives Miho an idea.
Violent tank sex!
Miho orders Duck Team and Turtle Team to gang up on the mouse, who meet Urai's force on the main road. They clash head-on, with Turtle Team taking the lead, driving full speed at the mouse and wedging itself underneath its tracks. Lion and Rabbit Team bait out the mouse's gun, forcing the turret to spin, allowing Duck Team to make their move, driving up the back of the Hetzer onto the mouse's body, locking the turret in place. Miho takes full advantage of the hot and sweaty tank orgy and gets into position. The mouse's commander asks the Type 89 light tank to kindly fuck off and die, and Duck Team responds with, actually it's a medium tank, you fucking chud. The mouse tries to rotate its turret to shrug them off, and Duck Team engages their tracks to keep it from spinning. Miho lines up the shot for Hana, aiming at the mouse's engine vents and letting it loose, dispatching the German BBW, but at the cost of Turtle Team and their Hetzer. They're alive, but their poor tank was crushed under the weight and pooped out. Weak little bitches can't handle a real woman. They're called love handles because I fucking love them. The rest of Kuromori Mine arrives at the town's outskirts, and Miho relays the plan, warning the Urai girls to be wary of those long German guns, giving them wicked backshots. Rabbit Team offers to take up the rear guard, and Miho orders the team to break up their formation and scatter their forces. Lion, Angler, and Duck teams lead the main force along, with Anglerfish breaking off first, followed by Duck and Lion teams splitting up. The M3 lead baits Kuromori Mine's elephant to follow them, depending on their super strategy plan to pull them through. Basically just plagiarizing Kelly's heroes and forcing the elephant to get stuck in a way it can't retaliate. Rabbit Team try to give the elephant back shots, but its armor holds out. They refocus their efforts to shoot towards the rear hatch with both guns, knocking out the elephant. Duck Team pulls some shenanigans, weaving in and out of the 3-part Kuromori Mine force that followed them. Rabbit Team tracks down the Yag Tiger, who almost baits them into a kill zone and barely scrapes by. The Yak Tiger follows them down an alleyway, with one of the freshmen remarking how 128mm is scary. That's about 5 inches, or just over a third of a ruler if you're wondering. I'm just saying, some of you may have a chance. A chance at prison, you fucking freak? Yeah, officer, this one, right here. Rabbit Team keeps the scuffle close, preventing the Yag Tiger from shooting them since the gun is too long to shoot them up close. Rabbit Team tries to sneak away at the end of an alley, getting knocked out and flipped over, but the Yag Tiger is sent careening into a drainage ditch, breaking its gun and rolling onto its back and being rendered inoperable. Angler Team attempts to link up with Lion Team, with Kuromura Mine's flag tank hot on their trail. Miho pulls the Panzer IV into the town square with Maho's Tiger following closely behind. Lion Team swoop in and block off the only entrance just as the rest of Kuromura Mine's tanks arrive. Maho and Miho initiate a duel, while the Porsche Tiger takes a beating outside the gate. Erica calls the Porsche Tiger a failure, which is incredibly ironic considering her team fields the exact same hull with all of the exact same problems, just in a slightly different configuration, which I thought was funny. Lion Team's armor takes the punishment handily as the sisters start their duel, circling around each other as Miho attempts to bait out a shot from the Tiger. Maho gives chase and the Tiger lets an HE round rip, cutting off Miho's escape. Before Maho can catch the Panzer IV in a kill zone, Miho backs out and makes her sister whiff the shot. We cut to Duck Team struggling to take out Kuromura Mine's tanks, and Lion Team getting their teeth kicked in, losing a track and getting shot all to hell but holding firm. Duck Team gets knocked out, tumbling down a road, and Lion Team gets hit with the full might of Kuromura Mine's remaining tanks, finally succumbing to its wounds, but still providing as a roadblock for Kuromura Mine's remaining force. Miho continues to bait her sister's advance, narrowly avoiding retaliation but failing to land a shot on her sister's Tiger. A couple close shots cost the Panzer IV some of its sheet metal side skirts, but Angler Team is still in the fight. Erica tries to force her way through Lion Team's blockade, driving up and over one of her tanks onto Lion Team's Tiger and through the gateway. Miho devises a plan, baiting out another shot and moving in while they reload. Angler Team prepares their finishing move as Erica's contingent draws near, the crowd and Uriah girls watching with bated breath as Miho orders in advance, attempting the same move she tried on Gloriana's Churchill. Miho and Maho exchange rounds, with Miho's bouncing off the Tiger's armor. The Tiger's round strips the side skirts off of the Panzer IV's turret as Mako drifts his tanks around to the Tiger's rear. Angler Team closes in and they both fire at each other again, point blank. When the smoke settles, it's revealed that the Tiger whiffed again and the Panzer IV knocked out Kuromura Mine's flag tank, winning Uriah the tournament and saving their school. All the girls swarm Angler Team's tank and celebrate, remarking how they took out a Tiger with a lousy Panzer IV. Momo breaks down in tears, thanking Miho, and Anzu shares the good news that the school will live on, hugging Miho and thanking her. Sadoko clears Mako's history of absences, and she responds by hugging Sadoko. Miho runs off to see her sister, and Maho congratulates her, shaking her hand, praising Miho for abandoning the Nishizumi style, and proverbially telling their mom to shove it. Erica even comes around, telling Miho that they won't lose next time. The Ori team receive congratulatory praise from all the other schools and the crowd, while Shiho watches from a distance, finally accepting her daughter as the victor, but not having the common decency to tell her in person. Miho gives one last hurrah, and the series comes to a close. Jesus fucking Christ, the script is 20 pages long already, and now I have to give the actual review. Someone want to spot me a monster, that'd be great. I'm a little in over my head right now.
What is this, dealer? Taking a piss, I've been standing here for 30 minutes.
Now, you might have already gathered my opinion on the series based on my comments during the play-by-play, but just to come out and say it, I think the show is great. It's not perfect, though. It has some pretty glaring flaws once you dig into it. First and foremost, character development is borderline non-existent. Only a select few characters, even in the main lineup, get any real development. 95% of the cast ends the series exactly how they started it. Sure, Angler Team, the main characters have all their moments. Miho becomes a competent leader, Hana gains the appreciation of her mother, Yukari finds friends and a place to belong, Sayori, well, she's there, and Mako goes from having a heteronormative rivalry to queer-questioning frenemies with Sadoko. And that's it. That's all there is. Some secondary characters like Shiho and Maho have some growth, but the rest of the cast is starved for anything resembling proper attention. So the characters are a bit dull and flimsy, but good lord does the action carry the series. If the action sucked the way the story and the character writing did, this show just would not have gone anywhere. The animation is a blend of 2D and 3D, which can look jarring depending how the combination is utilized, Berserk 2016 and 2017 being prime examples on how badly you could screw the pooch on that. But I never felt like the style blend took away from what was happening on screen. All in all, the animation is very good, and for the most part accurate at how the real-world vehicles look and drive. Not much I can really say on the action, other than it's good. Quite a few moments get me pretty hyped, the mouse fight being chief example. Something like that would never fly in Western media. In terms of art design, the show also looks amazing even when there isn't any action happening on the screen. The background shots are good looking, but nothing really special. 7 out of 10, I've definitely seen worse. The character designs are what tends to wane for me. To the artist's credit, The vast cast of characters all look unique and distinct from each other, with only the background girls tending to blend in with each other. Some designs get a little wacky, like Anteater Team's lineup. Momoga do not got that shit on, while some look pretty samey. Mallard Team being a notable example because they all look like the same person. That, and when you pick up on it, a lot of the characters in the main cast tend to look pretty similar too. Momo is just Maho with black hair and a monocle. The story is another gripe of mine, as I feel like there could have been more done with what's already here. A John Carmack quote comes to mind, which I'll paraphrase. The story of a video game is like the story in a porno. It's expected to be there, but it's not expected to be good. That's what Girls in Panzer's approach to the story feels like. In defense of the show, the plot begins and ends in a way that makes sense. Any plot holes can easily be whisked away, and I can't really put my finger on any story threads that ended up not going anywhere. Well, besides Sayori's many boyfriends that she definitely does have. I don't know, it would have been kind of funny to meet one and have him be like, I've never met this woman in my life. Who the fuck are you people? I don't know. I don't know if it's just other media spoiling me for things that I personally like, but the story is just so dull. The action carries the series, like I already said, but I would have just liked more emphasis on what was shown in the series that's not the action. There's plenty to work with here already. Imagine a Girls in Panzer where we explore Miho's doubts surrounding her skills as a leader, Yukari's struggle to fit in to her first group of real friends, Hana and Miho bonding over the collective parental disappointment, school leaders like Darjeeling and Kei actively stepping in as advisory roles to assist Miho's growth as a commander, besides just being lessons to be learned and then discarded. Yuzu, Momo, and Anzu sharing the burden of carrying the weight of their school on their backs and strengthening their bond while doing so. I mean, there's something here, I just wish we got more of it. Stories are better when more is there, not less. People want the more. People like the more. Another complaint with the story that I have is it feels like Pravda is on screen for so much longer than every other school. If you like Pravda, then this will probably fall on deaf ears, but I do not care. I do not care for Pravda. I do not want more Katyusha and Nona. I do not like Katyusha and Nona. I like Pravda's tanks. Pravda's tanks are cool. I don't like the people that drive them. Heaven forbid I call it an arc, because the show doesn't really have arcs in the traditional sense, but I feel like the Pravda arc and some of the filler elements could have been trimmed down to get anything else. You probably could have squeezed the Anzio OVA into the main series, which how much time these chucklenuts waste. Please, anything besides more Soviet slop. To branch off of story and animation, the soundtrack is absolute kino. A good portion of the soundtrack is just renditions of songs that already exist, but in those cases, they're high quality and faithful recreations to the source material. The Russian ones being my particular favorites. Russians just understand orchestra better than most other Europeans. I don't know how or why, but goddamn Ruskies can make some damn good music. The songs in the OST that are original to Girls in Panzer are also pretty good. I've used several of them in this video, and at the time of writing this part of the script, you're probably listening to it right now. It's that good. I said it earlier, but I really do mean it when I say there's nothing quite like Girls in Panzer out there. There's war movies, sure. There's movies with tanks in them, sure. There's ensemble shows with wide and various casts. I mean, hell, sports anime exists, which Girls in Panzer could technically fall under since tankery is a sport in universe. But nothing brings all of these elements together in the way that Girls in Panzer does at all. I first watched this show in 2018, and even little things like the soundtrack stick in my mind to this day. That and the Porsche Tiger scene lives rent-free in my head. I love that fucking tank so much. You know that meme that's like, boys will turn however old and base their entire personality off of one of these? Yeah, Girls in Panzer did that with me and tanks. I don't want to get all sentimental and gay on you, but I have a lot of nostalgia for this show since it was my gateway into anime, as well as my last major hyper-obsession before the pandemic hit and threw the cosmic balance of my generation out of whack. Coming back to Girls in Panzer is like coming back to the before times, before life got a little too real a little too quickly, and before media everywhere all got serious and melodramatic, and bad, and patronizing, and bad. Did I say bad yet? It's nice to return to something that's just dumb fun built on a premise that would never fly in real life. I mean, hell, that's why The Rock is still in Hollywood. Sometimes you just get a craving for action slop. I still make an effort to watch something Girls in Panzer related at least once a year around summertime just to get all nostalgic. Objectively speaking, it's not perfect, but subjectively speaking, it's everything I could ever ask for. It's my review, goddammit. I'll sing the show's praises until the second coming of Christ incarnate. I know that my opinion on the show is one shared with the majority of people who've seen Girls in Panzer. I have no illusion that I'm bringing anything new to the table, aside from me saying Pravda memes aren't funny and I hate them. That comment alone is sure to get me crucified on the hellish plains of Reddit. But yeah, with all that being said, I think we can call it here. I've gone on about the show for long enough. Thanks for sticking around. As for what's next, I'll probably tackle some of the secondary media for Girls in Panzer or dive straight into the movies. Either way, I think I can safely say I found my niche, so I'm going to be milking this franchise for everything I can get out of it. Anyway, I've been Old Ironsides, and this has been a media-illiterate media review. Catch you later, nerd.